You're listening to Healing Voices Project, where we share stories and the latest information from people who fight addiction every day. I'm Mike Torville, your host and author of Voices from the Fallen. Thank you for listening, for following, and most of all, for sharing with people you care about. Make your voice count too. Hi everybody, back again here at Healing Voices Project. I'm Mike Torville, your host, and today we have an old friend with us, Harvey McNulty. Harvey I've gotten to know for the past couple of years, and he's been with us before, but now Harvey has a new role at Balanced Recovery in East Longmeadow. It's a great organization. Harvey, thanks for coming back.
Thank you for having me.
Good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
Yeah. And by the way, we've done this for a couple of years now, and just by sheer coincidence and chance, you are our 100th episode.
Wow.
So congratulations there, buddy.
Thank you. Congratulations to you guys.
You won the lotto.
You do wonderful work. So
100, number 100 today, and you're it. And it wasn't by plan, it just turned out that way.
That's great.
So yeah, 100 is a big milestone. We've done this for a while, and it's, gosh, if I think about the myriad of people that we've met with, and people like yourself who share their stories, shared their work, promoted education, and all kinds of things like that. But also for me personally, what I've learned, gosh, the people I've got to be friends with, and what I've learned over this past couple of years has been phenomenal. I tell you what, I wish everybody could learn and be exposed to as much, because it's just amazing what people don't know.
True.
And that's why you're here, to share some of the stuff that people don't know, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so you're 100. I didn't bring the balloons and cake for you.
I was actually thinking about that on the way over here,
Oh, well, yeah, I'll do that, it reminds me, this is way off topic, but it's sort of a funny story. Back in the 60s, remember the Lucy show?
Oh, my God, yes.
Yeah, well, you weren't quite.
I was a little guy then, but I still remember watching. That's what my mom would just, throw
Lucy
on the
was
TV.
on, and it was the 60s version of it. And Lucy worked at a bank. She worked for Mr. Mooney. Mr. Mooney was the banker that always gave her a hard time, and she was always trying to outwit him and everything. And so she wanted to take a day off, and so she faked calling in sick. Mr. Mooney, I'm sick today. And so she probably wondered, where am I going with this? But so she says she has to take it off because she's sick, and Mr. Mooney's not that happy. But instead, she wasn't sick. She was going shopping with her friend Vivian. And so she went shopping at this big department store, and she walks in, and as soon as she walks into the door, boom, the lights, the balloons, the flashing, everybody's like, hey, congratulations. She goes, what's going on? You're our 1 millionth customer, Lucy. You just came in at the exact, you're our 1 millionth customer. And she was like, wow, guess what? You get a free shopping spree, you get $10,000, and it's your lucky day. She goes, wow. And it turns out to be on the news, on TV, on the radio, and of course Mr. Mooney finds out and says, Lucy, you weren't sick today.
Yeah. Where were you really?
And she's like, oh no, now I'm in big trouble. And so it reminds me every time I think now our 100th episode, it's your lucky day. And it's funny because years later, I was working at my job at a mortgage company, and I had an appointment in Holyoke. And after the appointment, I said, I have a little extra time. I'm going to shoot over to Barnes & Noble. I went up to Barnes & Noble and to buy a book or something. And I walked in, and there was this big mountain of books. But pile. I said, what the heck is that? So it was Bill Clinton's new book at the time called My Life. Wow. It came out 15-something years ago, 20 years ago, right? So I go, oh my gosh, look at this pile of books. So I couldn't help picking up one of the books just to look at it. And just then, I think Channel 22 came in with their lights, cameras, directed, and they said, hey, how are you? I go, what do you do? She goes, hey, we're doing a little special today about Barnes & Noble and stuff. He said, wondering if you, answer a few questions since you're here. Oh, sure, yeah. So they took my picture to talk to me, a little interview. In fact, I said, yeah, I just walked in here. I saw a mountain of books and, decided to pick one up. Well, guess what? The headlines was a mountain of books, front page of the paper. So the next day I go to work, and a lot of people said, so, appointment in Holyoke, huh? You You were caught red-handed, and I said, "Oh my gosh, my unlucky day." I said, "Really? I swear, I was just trying to, And it was just funny. It reminded me of Lucy, right?
Yeah.
That was my Lucy experience.
Your Lucy moment.
My Lucy moment. So I hope you're not skipping school or work to
no.
to
God,
come
no.
into this, so. Anyway.
No, it's interesting you say that, though, because one of the kids actually has a book project. Actually, we've been helping him with.
Yeah.
And he's like, I got to get it in tomorrow. And I'm like, well, how much of it did you do? So, so, of course, last minute we're, getting through it. We finally get him through it. And he's like, I'm never doing that again. I was like, yeah, you won't. Because now you have to thoroughly read and reread it and digest it. And,
yes.
It was a great lesson for him. But, it was great, too, because we had good dialogue about it. Because you don't see kids reading all that much apart from
not these days, no.
social media,
right,
and that sort of thing.
And that they're glued to that.
Yeah.
Well, that's an experience that'll help him, I think. If going forward, it'll impact him.
Right.
The same way Lucy did with me.
Yeah.
Right.
You never know where you're going to learn.
Certain things stick with you.
That's right. That is true.
Well, that's good. Well, that's an exception,
Yeah.
Anyway, with all that aside, we're going to dive into what you're doing for work now, and also for people who didn't get to hear and see you on our last episode, which is about a year or so ago. You've changed jobs since then.
Yeah.
And so I know that you've gone through a lot yourself, and you went through with the Michael J. Diaz Center, and you've gone with Swift River, a lot of great organizations, and now you're with Balanced Recovery. Mm-hmm. And your job now is Business Development Director.
Yep.
But in addition to that, you do other things.
Yeah, I also do, treatment advocacy, which
I
believe is really important for folks, right? Because I feel like a lot of the times what happens for those folks who are in need of treatment, not only are their voices not heard, a lot of the time, they're not being seen for what it is that they actually need. And I think what I mean by that is, a lot of folks, when people think of addiction and they think of treatment, there's a lot of different things that come up for a lot of folks, and some things, they need to be met more on a personal level, right? Certain folks, like to use meditation, yoga, that sort of thing in a holistic approach. Other folks like more of the evidence-based module, of CBT and DBT, or some folks like going to AA, some folks like Smart Recovery, some folks like, going to faith-based practices to enhance their recovery. So there's no such thing as one size fits all.
The difficulty is you don't recognize that until after going through the process.
Right.
So you don't obviously know that up front.
Yeah.
So you go through different methods until one clicks.
Well, what I have found also too, though, as a person in recovery too, like, as your recovery does evolve, the things that you need change, right? And so it really is a day at a time when it comes, down to it in terms of what someone might need. Year 2 of my recovery looks a lot different than I'm coming up on 6 years, God willing, here December 16th.
Wow, congratulations! That's coming up.
Thank you. Yeah,
days away.
Days away. Yeah. And
your life was far different 6 years ago.
Yes, far different 6 years ago. Even year 2, 3, 4 looked different than it does now in terms of my recovery, right? And so that's one of those things I'm constantly vigilant about as it pertains to my own recovery, and then also when I'm working with other folks who get 2, 3 years or a year sober, or whatever it is that they got going on, right? And that's why I try to help folks, to really understand, like, recovery, it's doing what's in front of you, it's paying attention and being present with where you're at, right? And a lot of the time, I think for folks in treatment, that can be a constant struggle, even in recovery and sober. And so
when you say that, being present at the moment, because there's so many distractions and temptations, right, that can pull you away. Yeah. So if you're easily, swayed by that or influenced by these things, that's when you might go off the wagon or whatever you want to call it. But when you start to, you're unable to resist that temptation. Right. But if you're focused, and that's easy to say, focused, but in the moment, it sounds like a cliche.
Yeah.
but it actually makes a difference.
Oh, it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I think for when you've been in and for a person who has been in and out of treatment programs for over 25 years,
you
start to understand that the biggest part of recovery is doing the simple things, or the things that we perceive as being simple, consistently, and how to do things consistently is a big deal in recovery.
Do you find that during recovery a lot of people resist that though?
Yeah. A lot of, and I mean, in large part,
resist it, or
I'd say subconsciously, actually.
That's
more so. And some people, it's because most people aren't aware of it at that point in time, right? Because life happens so quick. Where I feel like there's a lot of folks that, and that includes myself as well. Like naturally we can respond to fear in a way we didn't previously. Anxiety, depression, all of these other things that come into play, because it's like when you first get sober, the first thing that comes back to mind is, oh, I got to get the job back, I got to get back in the good graces of my wife or
and
husband.
You want it all at once.
Right. All at once, and that's not. It's a process, and helping folks to be able to help them slow that process down so that they can actually see what it is that's going on with them and in their relationships, as it pertains to family or professionally.
People get frustrated or impatient with it too, right?
Yeah, restless, irritable, discontent. Those things pop up on a daily basis, I think, for all people, really. It's just a matter of how you deal with it. And for folks in recovery, that can be one of the most challenging things, right? It's learning how do I show up for work? How do I be a dad? How do I be a son? How do I be a brother? Right? From the surface, it looks like they're easy questions to answer, but they're really not. Right? And part of recovery is discovering who you are.
You can't just change in a day.
No, God, no.
I mean, it's not on the same thing, but I'm recovering from knee replacement surgery, and I'm impatient and I'm frustrated because I want to be able to walk today.
Right.
I want to go up the stairs now. And I'm like, why is this taking so long?
Yeah.
And it's very frustrating to know mentally, you're forced to be patient. You have no choice.
Right.
And it's this similar because you have to get the mindset that this is going to take time, and I have to take it, like you said, day to day.
Right.
It's so easy. It's said so easily, but it's not done that easily.
Right. Well, and that's a perfect example, honestly, because that's what happens to a lot of folks in recovery, right?
Yeah.
The pain has to get great enough in order for someone to want to start to even think about the change.
Yeah.
Right. Then how do you ask for help? Right. I think the biggest part for most folks is, I don't know. And as a person, when you're starting off, you're 36, you're 40, you're 50 years old, and you're just starting off in recovery for the first time. It takes a lot of courage to be able to sit across from another human being and say, look, I don't know how to do this. Can you please help? Right? Because our society teaches us that we should know certain things either by a certain age or, they try to, society has these indicators of what success looks like, right? And when I got into recovery,
a high and sometimes unrealistic standard or expectation.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
That they can never achieve.
Right.
Well, your experience too comes from your years of 6 years in this field, but prior to that, you said 25 years of in and out of treatment. So you're about 40. You're in your early 40s, and you've gone through this. Let's talk about a little bit about your history.
Sure.
Get some context to what brought you here, and then we'll talk about what you're doing at Balanced Recovery. And I'll say it again: Balanced Recovery is a wonderful group with great people. I've been there a few times, and participated in a few events and so on. And just wonderful people. You're with a great group.
Yeah, I love the team that I get to work with. We're constantly looking and developing and helping each other. Help the folks in the community and help them really re-engage, right?
And you're working with addiction, mental health, and counseling services.
Correct.
Just all three of those, and the other categories underneath that, but those are the basics, right?
Yeah.
With addiction, mental health, and counseling. But we'll and I'm jumping back and forth.
It's
but,
okay.
We'll get into the Balanced Recovery job and what you do and who they are and who can benefit from them.
Absolutely.
But let's talk a little bit about what brought you here. let's try to. I know we could talk for an hour about your story, but
Yeah,
we'll take the short version, right?
Yeah. The abridged version.
The abridged version of what brought you here. How did you evolve with your addiction, and then how'd you come through, and what it took to get there?
Yeah, so for me, I'm a byproduct of Boston. I grew up in Boston, throughout my life, and I grew up in Dorchester on Cottage Street, and I'm the oldest of 9. I got 5 brothers, 4 sisters. Growing up, my dad spent majority of my childhood in jail, in prison. Actually, he did a lot of time at Thomaston and Shirley Max.
So your mom had to bring up 9 kids.
No, luckily my mom only had to bring up 3 of us. The others were all step siblings, but I consider them.
Gotcha.
Brother,
okay, but
brother,
still,
sister.
she had her hands full.
Oh, without a doubt. Just me alone. I pray for her. She was a saint. No, she did the best that she could, right? Like, I didn't really have a whole lot of structure growing up. I tried to go to school and focus on playing sports, my academics, and it's interesting because growing up, I always looked up to, of course, my mom and my dad, unfortunately, there wasn't a whole lot to really look up to given their life circumstances. However, they did the best that they could with what they knew and what they had. Mm-hmm. And, and so what would happen for me growing up is my dad would send letters from prison to my sister and I. He wasn't really there, so I didn't have that father figure, if you will. Mm-hmm. And my mother was, early on absent in the sense that she was active in her own addiction and alcoholism. And
your father went through the same thing. Your father was...
Yeah, my father went through the same thing. He actually, early on, he, had a large quantity of heroin in his trunk, driving from Boston to Maine. He had nodded out at the wheel and passed out and hit a family, and the family van flipped over on the highway. And he was sentenced. He was supposed to be sentenced to 15 to 20 years in prison and ended up getting 8 for that. And that's where he was able to turn his life around. He was a New England Golden Glove boxer, but he struggled with it, and he was a tremendous athlete. We have great athletes in our family, but he struggled with addiction, and that took him down the wrong path. And I just remember as a kid, he'd plant me down in front of the TV, I'd watch some football, and there'd be a pile of marijuana on the table, and they'd just say, "Leave that alone, kid, and pay attention to the game." And that was my childhood in a nutshell. Was always just go out and play, do whatever you do, just don't get us in trouble, whatever you do. And so I kind of raised myself, and along with some of the other parents within the community would, chime in when they needed to try to get me to go in the right direction. Mm-hmm. And, growing up, that's what it was like. I tried to play football, baseball, and basketball. I excelled in those things for a time, and, in academics, up until a certain point, until the rightful age of 15, right? And that's when I had my first drink of drug. And I did it because I was influenced by my friends, peer pressure, mm-hmm. And I didn't even like the taste of beer. I didn't know why anybody liked the taste of beer. I was like, why are people drinking Budweiser? It didn't make sense to me, But then I seen the effect that alcohol produced on my friends, and that carefree, warm, elusive feeling, and never in my mind did it ever cross my mind that I'd become, an alcoholic or an addict. I had aspirations of playing in the NFL. That did not come to fruition. Instead, what I did was, I excelled at those things up until the rightful age of from 15 to 17. I was pretty good on making everything look good on the outside until it wasn't. And I started dibbling and dabbling at 17.
Into heavier drugs?
Into heavier drugs, yeah. The cocaine.
The drinking just led to that.
And the drinking just led to that. I actually stopped drinking at that point. Mm-hmm. And then really, that's where my addiction picked up. And, it led me into 15 years of being homeless in the streets of Boston. I tried going to college. I tried going to the Marine Corps. I tried everything you could imagine, one-on-one therapy, everything, treatment. And I just couldn't stop.
You weren't able to complete any of those things because of the drugs and drinking.
Correct. Right.
So,
well, yes, the drugs and the drinking, they were a symptom of what I really had going on. The untreated alcoholism really is what happens inside my mind I have this voice in my head that talks to me in my own voice and tells me, like, hey, you can drink one more time, or you can do this, and it's not, you'll be able to get away with this one, right? So it's a lot bigger than just the drink and the drug. It's the symptoms of my behavior and the addictive behaviors that come along with it.
Yeah.
And I felt, I didn't know what I didn't know at that time, and wasn't able to, I had always asked for help, but then I'd tell the help how to help me.
Like you knew better.
Yeah. Like, I know what I'm doing. I've been to a million detoxes or, PHP programs, and I know how to live life sober. And that was the biggest lie I told myself, that I knew what I was doing.
You thought you had control of it.
Oh yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah.
And I thought, like, if I could continue to manipulate, lie, and cheat and steal, no one will ever find out. But the truth of the matter is that everybody always knew, but I was the last one to know.
Something happened that you recognized, or somebody else pointed out to you.
Yeah.
That you're going down the wrong path, Harvey.
Yeah.
You're not so smart.
No, yeah.
When did it first occur to you that I can't handle this?
Honestly, I knew on an intellectual level, right? Because my dad 12-stepped me into Alcoholics Anonymous at 17. I didn't like it. I was like, this is not for me. I'm 17 years old. There's no way I can be an addict or an alcoholic. I'm just young, having fun.
Yeah.
Like, this is a little weird for me. I'm not doing this. And so, I dibbled and dabbled with 12-step fellowships, for a little bit throughout my life. And really what ended up happening for me, what the defining moment and what really changed everything for me was, I was 36 years old, sitting in jail with a diaper on, right? I got 12 open court cases between 2 different states. And, I had bled out a pint and a half of blood from smoking so much methamphetamine. And at this time in my life, I got sober December 16th, 2019. So in the year of 2019, I had just lost a fiance that I was engaged to. I was a senior at UMass Boston studying business management with a concentration in entrepreneurship. I was flying, halfway across the country, and I've been to Cuba and London. I had some real opportunities that made the outside look really well, but I was dying on the inside, right? And that woman I put through hell kicked me out. I ended up homeless back in the south end of Boston in a dog park, and and I proceeded to do some other heinous things, and put a lot of people in fear due to my addiction. And what ended up happening is, by way of the great state of Massachusetts and the great state of New Hampshire, they had worked together and said, Mr. McNulty, they brought me before a judge and said, look, you can either go to treatment or you can go away for a long time. And and I chose treatment. And by God's grace, I found myself out here in Western Mass, and and I got connected with the right people who were doing the right thing in their programs in recovery. And they weren't out, chasing women. They weren't out manipulating, lying, cheating, and stealing. They weren't doing any of those things sober. What they were actually doing is working a program of action that worked for them. And I saw them, show up for life and show up and be a son, and show up and learn how to be an employer.
All those things that you were on the verge of being able to do, but couldn't get there.
Right.
How'd you end up in jail?
So I ended up in jail. What happened for me was I was smoking methamphetamine. I had just robbed a guy for his house right across the street from the Boston Police Headquarters. I decided to go on the run. Up to New Hampshire. I was going to meet this girl. And so I get on Facebook and I'm texting this girl, and I think we're going to meet up. And I ended up getting catfished by the Nashville police detectives along with other law enforcement agencies, and they put together this fake profile on Facebook and catfished me.
Ooh.
And so I get off the bus, the Boston Express, and I have all this methamphetamine on me, and they catch me, and and unfortunately at that point in time, my nether region was falling apart because I had smoked so much methamphetamine. I had bled out from my nether region, and I couldn't run. And I looked at them and I was like, look, the gig's up. here's all the stuff I got on me, and and they, and I wasn't released.
You had nothing in you to fight it.
No, I had nothing in me to fight it. I was completely weak. I was broken. My spirit was just crushed. And I remember sitting in a waiting max, at Valley Street Jail. They had moved me from minimum to max, and they isolated me. And I remember sitting there at 36 years old saying to myself, like, how'd I get here? Maybe all these years, all these people were right.
And think about that, almost 20 years.
Yeah.
Right? At that point. A lot of it you probably couldn't remember.
No. Oh, God, no.
It's just a blur of years that
Yeah.
have just gone absent, right?
Yeah.
So at that moment you say, okay, well, I got this diaper on, I'm in jail, I've lost everything.
Yeah.
I have nothing.
Yeah.
You made a decision, or was someone instrumental in getting you the next step for help? How did you?
Well, so what happened was I had a moment in jail where honesty and truth, and reality all collided together for me. And I said to myself, I'm going to do what they said to do, which is give yourself a year. And if things don't get better in a year, you can go back to doing what you've been doing. It's not going anywhere. And so what I did that moment is I hit my knees and I begged God for help. And because of God and that connection that I reached out. And I didn't even know if, and at the time I thought God wanted nothing to do with me. I thought no one wanted anything to do with me. And I begged God for mercy and for help. And that came through way of a judge. And by God's grace, I was able to get into these programs. And I'm not a religious guy. I'm spiritual by nature, but that's my experience, and it's been profound, and God's been with me every step of the way. There's nothing, I don't know much about life, but what I do know is that I have a solution today that works, in rough going, right? Recovery for me today is not about getting the house, the wife, the car, the good job, all that stuff. Recovery is being able to be okay with you in recovery when you make mistakes, when you fail in recovery, when things aren't going the way you want them to in recovery. That's what recovery is about. Is
being able to handle those things.
Yeah, being able to, in order to deal with you got to learn how to heal with you, right? Because if you don't, what ends up happening is you revert back to doing the things you've always done, and you don't go back to being the person you were. Things just get worse, right? And so there's never been a point in my life where I went back to actively using and saying, oh yeah, this is better, right? I would never, in my wildest dreams ever, never ever, would I ever trade my worst moment sober for my best moment high.
That's pretty profound. Yeah.
And that's what recovery is about. It's about understanding for me today that I don't know, that I have to continue to ask for help, that I got to continue to do the work, right? And when I seek the guidance and direction of God and from those in the fellowship of those in recovery, right? Like I continually get to learn, right? I'm never going to arrive. There's no such thing as arriving. It's either you grow or you go, right? And I want to grow.
It's never complete.
No. So,
well, that's a great transformation that you had, and fortunate, because you probably wouldn't be around now to talk about it if it went the other way.
Oh no.
After you get out, you found yourself somehow in a position of working in this field, which I'm sure you never had in a million years, never thought you would be.
No.
You had other plans.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But now you find yourself in this field, and how did you get from, because this is a common thing, and I think when you find your okay, now what? Okay, and you find you can share your experience and the feeling of helping other people through what you've gone through, and that's better than pay, because I've heard it's better than you could say, look at if I could do this for free, because you see the difference in lives it makes from how you're able to help them, but somehow the door opened for you. To get into this field.
I wasn't even, it's strange. It's so funny you say that, because I never thought I would be a guy working in treatment.
Yeah.
That was not. My plan was to just go back to Boston.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And God saw fit for me to remain out here and get married, and now I'm happily married. I have 4 beautiful kids, and
Wow.
you know, my wife's coming up on 7 years sober. I'm coming up on 6.
Wonderful.
You know, and,
Yeah.
and we were able to participate in that. But you know, it's been a privilege. I've been able to work with the Holyoke Police Department and BHN. That was my first job as a recovery coach. I got to work with the Hindman County Addiction Task Force and sheriff coaching the Hindman County Sheriff's Department, and I got to help a plethora of folks throughout the community with them, and they really lit my heart on fire to continue to want to help other folks. And and then I got to go and be a treatment advocate at Swift River Addiction Campuses for a while, and now I'm at Balanced Recovery Center, and it's the best decision I've ever made for me personally and professionally, because what we have at Balance is just it's unbelievable. The clinic from top down, from ownership, from the clinical team. You walk in and you can tell people care.
And I've been there a couple times.
Yeah.
And a couple of events we participated in. And you're right, they're wonderful people. And by the way, the facility in East Longmeadow it's only been open for about a year.
Yeah.
I was at the grand opening December 5th of last year.
Yeah.
And they've done a lot in a short time.
Yeah.
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 Great
They
people, yeah.
they work extremely hard at what they do. Especially from the clinical piece. We are primary mental health, PHP, IOP, as well as substance use disorder, PHP and IOP. You can get the one-on-one therapy, the group therapy.
And let's talk about that too, not to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
you talked about, addiction programs, mental health and counseling. And so some of the programs that they offer, for example, like if somebody was thinking, okay, well, whether it's mental health issues, counseling, questions, or addiction, what type of person or what would warrant a call to Balanced Recovery first?
Sure.
Who would be the type of person that would call, and how would they call?
What we're looking,
the
the type of folks that we're looking to help are, college students, business professionals, first responders, veterans.
Yeah.
Right. Those are the folks, believe it or not, that don't have a whole lot of places to go close to home, for a lot of reasons. Right. If you're a first responder, you're a police officer, or you're a firefighter, or you're a corrections officer. Right, you got to be very, strategic in where you go for treatment, because you're not sure who you're going to run into, right? And the strength in being with Balanced Recovery Center is we're a boutique, and we deliver informed trauma care as well as personalized care, right? And so we are providing a place for those folks to be able to come to, as well as young business professionals and college students, right? We have full days for treatment for PHP and IOP. We have the half days, and then we also have a hybrid model, a flex model.
It's all outpatient.
Right. Yeah.
It's a beautiful building.
Yeah.
Beautiful office.
Oh, I love it.
Very
I love
comfortable.
it. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it has a spa-like vibe to it.
Right. Yeah.
And we often tell folks, no, this is treatment, right?
Right.
But no, the clients we have there, they're thriving. They're, they love. They're starting to love who they are, but it's gradually you start seeing it. You start seeing it in the ways. And we offer Reiki, meditation, massage, cold plunge, right? You're getting that personalized treatment plan, right? We're meeting you where you're at.
Anyone who would call would have a question about how does this get paid for? Is insurance? Is it covered by insurance? Yeah.
We take insurance. We are all out of network. We take Blue Cross Blue Shield, Aetna, Cigna. We're really willing to look at. The first thing we don't really want to talk about, honestly, the first question out of our mouths isn't what insurance do you have.
Right.
It's what do you need.
Right.
And so we're willing to work with folks to the best of our ability. I would encourage folks, if you're worried about, the insurance piece of it, please submit it. Doesn't matter what it is.
Just call.
Just call.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's the biggest piece. right? And if we can take your insurance, that's great. And if not, we can get you to another facility or another program that's going to work best.
Just initiate the conversation.
Yeah.
Find out where, if that's the right place.
Right.
But I think at first to find out how can balanced recovery help me.
Right.
And if not, you have a good sense. You were talking about earlier about how different programs may not be the fit for everybody. But at least you can help find it because you work and collaborate with a lot of other organizations.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Very
Yeah. And
closely,
it's that's the thing. Recovery and addiction is a community issue.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So we have to meet it. We have to meet it head on as a community.
Yeah.
And that's the greatest part about working with other partners within, our community is that, some folks that they get, it may not work out for them there. They can come to us and vice versa. And it's like, because you just never know. You never know. I thought so many times, well, if I just go to this one place as a person, with untreated alcoholism, if I get fixated on this idea of what my recovery is supposed to look like.
Yeah.
And then what happens is my experience shows that it's completely different. And then what happens? The fear, the restlessness, the irritability, it all comes back.
Yeah,
right?
You've seen that a lot.
Right.
Well, you guys, I know, do fantastic. If somebody wants to reach certainly they can go on the website and find the phone number, unless you have that to shout out.
Yeah.
So first of all, let's give the phone number.
Yeah, so they could just reach me at my personal contact, 413-326-3115.
326-3115.
Correct.
And online, the website to find Balanced Recovery is
www.balancedrecoverycenter.com.
balancedrecoverycenter.com.
Correct.
Okay. All right, and it's in East Longmeadow.
Correct.
And so we're talking with Harvey McNulty here, Business Development Director and more, treatment advocate, and much more than that too, with a history of understanding and experience that you can certainly share and relate to people with. And you're doing great work there, and I know the people there are just phenomenal. And I know we starting to run out of time, but we talked a little bit about the whole scope of balanced recovery. But whether it's addiction, I want to just get a little specific, then we'll wrap up.
Sure.
Even if you're talking about somebody who's going through substance abuse, addiction, they can call.
Yep.
Mental health issues.
Mental health issues, same thing.
Same thing.
They can call, and if they don't feel comfortable picking up the phone, they always can just reach out to admissions at balancedrecoverycenter.com.
Okay. And how about counseling services?
In counseling services, same thing. So what ends up happening typically is we like to, when folks call in, provided we can take their insurance and that sort of thing, we can get them set up with a therapist and a counselor.
Okay.
But before doing that, what they would do is meet with our phenomenal clinicians, Renee, and they go through an intake process.
Yeah.
To figure out what are the underlying conditions you got going on.
Then you determine what's needed.
Right. Exactly.
And I guess you were just answering the question because I was thinking they don't have to know what they need when they call.
Right.
Because you determine that through a conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, a lot of the time, this is for a lot of folks, whether it's mental health or substance use disorder, a lot of the time, I know for myself, I didn't know what I needed.
Right. That's it.
Right?
Yeah.
Until I go through that process and, like you said, cultivate that thorough conversation. And then you find out, well, maybe I do need a little bit of this, but I might need a little bit of this as well.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the whole part of the balanced experience is to find out, what is it that needs to be, brought back into balance.
And it just starts with a conversation.
Right.
Everything starts there.
Yeah. Always.
So call. Well, Harvey, great having you. Appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you. Congratulations again on 100th.
100. You're the man. Yeah. Glad it's you.
Thank you.
We've become friends, and it's nice to have you on for this. And everybody, I appreciate you sticking with us here at Healing Voices Project. Remember, visit our website, healingvoicesproject.org. Mike Torville with Harvey McNulty, and we'll see you all soon. Thanks.